New York Harbor, 1882. Thousands of exhausted immigrants stood silently on the deck of crowded steamships, staring at the giant city through cold morning fog. For many of them, this was supposed to be the beginning of the American dream. But the closer the ship came to New York, the more the city stopped looking like paradise. Smoke covered the sky like a black storm. The smell hit them first: rotting garbage, horse waste, sweat, cheap alcohol, and something worse: desperation. One immigrant mother held her little daughter tightly and whispered, "Everything will be better here." She did not know that within 2 years, her daughter would be sold into prostitution. In the wealthiest city in America, thousands of children slept hungry every night. Some slept beside rats. Some slept beside dead bodies. The rich called New York the city of opportunity. The poor called it the giant machine that eats people alive. Every morning before sunrise, thousands of desperate men gathered outside factories hoping for work. Most returned home with nothing. And when a father returned home without money, the entire apartment became a battlefield. Neighbors heard screaming through thin walls every night. Arguments about bread, rent, alcohol, and survival. Some fathers disappeared forever. Some drank themselves unconscious. Some became criminals by winter. Some mothers made impossible choices. In old New York, poverty did not just destroy money. It destroyed morality. By 1890, entire families were living inside single tiny rooms no bigger than a modern bathroom. Sometimes 10 people shared one bed. The air inside those buildings barely moved. In summer, the heat became unbearable. The smell became deadly. Disease spread faster than hope. Tuberculosis, cholera, typhus. Sometimes entire families vanished within weeks. Death became so common that children sometimes stopped crying at funerals. They simply stared in silence. But hunger was even more terrifying than death, because hunger changed people slowly, from human into survivors. One teenage boy stole bread for the first time at age 12. By 16, he was carrying a knife. The streets of 5 Points were filled with gangs. Irish gangs, Italian gangs, child gangs, even girl gangs. Police officers entered these neighborhoods carefully. Sometimes they never came out alive. For poor girls, survival often came with a terrible price. Some worked 16 hours inside dangerous factories. Others entered brothels before turning 18, not because they wanted to, because they were hungry. Many fathers never spoke about it. But deep inside, they knew exactly why their daughters disappeared at night. Millionaires threw grand parties beneath golden chandeliers, while children searched garbage for food only blocks away. One newspaper wrote, "New York contains more luxury and more misery than almost any city on earth." And then came winter, the season the poor feared most. Coal became expensive, food became scarce, and freezing to death became terrifyingly common. For children born inside the slums, crime often felt more normal than school. Many boys joined gangs before they even learned how to read. The city judged the poor harshly, but hunger had its own rules. In the crowded saloons of Lower Manhattan, cheap alcohol became medicine for hopelessness. Some marriages survived poverty. Many did not. Arguments about money slowly became arguments about life itself. Young women arrived in New York dreaming of opportunity. Some ended up trapped inside brothels within weeks. The city had many predators: landlords, gangsters, corrupt police, rich businessmen, and fake job recruiters. One wrong decision could destroy an entire family, and eviction happened constantly. Entire lives could collapse in a single afternoon. Yet somehow, people still found reasons to laugh. Street musicians filled dark neighborhoods with music. For a few minutes, the slums almost felt alive. Immigrant communities brought their own food, their own jokes, and their own traditions. Even inside terrible poverty, human beings still searched for beauty. The streets transformed every night into something darker. Knives flashed beneath dim lantern light. Gunshots echoed between crowded buildings. The police were often overwhelmed, sometimes corrupt. sometimes terrified. Many brothels paid protection money directly to powerful officers. Everyone knew it. Nobody stopped it. New York was becoming richer than ever before, but the poor rarely saw any of that wealth. The rich built grand hotels. The poor built graveyards. Some mothers worked all day washing clothes for wealthy families, then returned home unable to feed their own children. One little boy reportedly ate newspaper scraps to silence his hunger. Another child froze to death only steps away from a luxury theater. Factory accidents became horrifyingly common, especially for children. Tiny hands were cheaper to hire and easier to replace. Some children worked 14 hours a day, then slept beside factory floors at night. Politicians kept promising progress while the poor kept suffering. The newspapers called New York the capital of opportunity. The poor called it the city that never stops taking. Yet love still existed there, even inside misery. Some couples dreamed of escaping New York forever, far away from smoke and violence. For many immigrants, New York slowly became a prison without walls. The city promised freedom, but poverty chained people more effectively than iron ever could. Every corner of the city had a different kind of desperation. In one apartment, a mother secretly watered down soup so her children would think there was more food. In another building, a father sold his wedding ring just to buy coal for winter. And somewhere else in the city, a teenage girl prepared herself for another night she did not want to survive. The newspapers often blamed immigrants for New York's problems. But the city depended on their labor to survive. Immigrants were hated. Italian immigrants were mocked. Jewish immigrants were isolated. Poor black communities suffered even deeper discrimination. At night, the city became louder, darker, and more dangerous. Underground gambling houses stayed open until sunrise. Illegal alcohol flowed endlessly. Violence waited everywhere. Workers lost fingers, eyesight, and sometimes entire limbs inside factories. If someone became injured, they were usually replaced immediately by another desperate immigrant waiting outside. To old New York's industrial machine, human beings were often disposable. Every Sunday, churches filled with exhausted workers praying for miracles, jobs, food, and survival. Good and evil often lived in the same apartment building. One floor above starving children, a gangster counted stolen money. One hallway away from violence, a young couple quietly fell in love. Not every criminal was born violent. Some were created slowly by hunger. Journalists secretly entered the slums with cameras. What they discovered shocked America. Tiny rooms without windows. Families sleeping beside sewage. Children covered in disease. Some reformers demanded better housing laws. Others demanded fair wages. Some demanded revolution. Strikes sometimes turned violent. Police beat workers openly in the streets. Still, the workers kept marching. Hunger had already taught them not to fear pain. Slowly, New York began to change. Child labor laws improved. Housing laws improved. Some lives became safer. But the scars of old New York never fully disappeared. Survival still remained. Old New York was not just a city. It was a battlefield of human survival. A place where hope and horror lived side by side every single day. For millions of people, surviving old New York became the greatest battle of their entire lives. Some people escaped the slums. Most never did. Entire generations were born into poverty and died there. The American dream never arrived for many families. Instead, they found overcrowded rooms, sickness, violence, and endless labor. But even in the darkest neighborhoods, people still fell in love, still laughed, and still dreamed. Human beings refused to stop being human, even when the city treated them like machines. Today, modern New York shines with glass towers and bright lights. Millions walk its streets without knowing what once happened there. Beneath the concrete, beneath the subways, beneath the luxury, the ghosts of old New York still remain. The starving children, The exhausted mothers, the broken workers, the forgotten dead. They helped build one of the greatest cities on Earth, even though history almost forgot them. Old New York was terrifying, violent, dirty, and merciless. But it was also deeply human. Because behind every great city, there are forgotten people who suffered to build it. And Old New York was built on survival. Old New York was more than a city. It was a test of human endurance, a place where millions arrived searching for hope and discovered hunger, violence, sacrifice, love, corruption, survival, and resilience. Beneath today's shining skyline, their stories still echo.